and that pertains to EFF leader Julius Malema's court appearance. And for more on this, we are now joined by political analyst Asanda Ngoasheng for some reaction. And she joins us now via our video link. Ms. Ngoasheng, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. Let's start off here. I mean, we saw EFF members painting East London in a sea of red as they went to support and give their support to their leader, Julius Malema. What do you make of this moment, particularly from a political point of view for the EFF leader?
Thank you so much for having me. It was very interesting to see not only the people outside court, but also when Julius Malema was going to appear yesterday, there was footage of his supporters on the plane being very jovial and seeming to be confident about the prospects of their leader. So, of course, we are now in the election phase and we are heading to the local government elections. So this is obviously an opportunity that the EFF wasn't going to miss to showcase its support, but to also engage its supporters, particularly in the East London area. You'll see that quite a number of particularly young people showed up, which is the constituency that the EFF has quite large numbers of, from as seen by the last elections results.
And do you think that this is a booster for the EFF, considering the turnout from the last time when it comes to the polls and how they performed at the polls? Like you mentioned, that we do find ourselves in an election year. What does it say in an election year for the EFF support?
Well, I think it was showing a good, it's a good turnout. It's a good showing. It's showing a political party that's strong, a political party that has not just members, but active members, because you need to see people on the ground in order to have an idea of the full support that an organization has. However, I was a bit concerned by the fact that, Julius Malema is not in court for a happy thing or for allegations that haven't yet, been finalized. He is in pre-sentencing, meaning we are waiting to hear the sentence of a crime which he has been convicted of, and now we're just waiting to hear, what the sentence is going to be. And to see so many people out supporting somebody who has been criminally charged is a big problem. And this is a problem that, South Africa has a history of this. We've seen it with the ANC, with Jacob Zuma. Every time he shows up in court, his supporters turn out in their numbers when you're still with the ANC, and I'm sure while he's with the MK, when he goes to court, the same will happen. We've seen this with the ANC again, with Tony Yengeni and many other political principals. When they go to court, whatever they're accused of, there are always supporters who are willing to support them. And this raises questions around South Africans' engagement and belief in the rule of law, because the question is, if there is a court case and somebody has been found guilty, why do we have so many people in court willing to support somebody who is seen to have broken the law? Because shooting, a gun in a full stadium it's a crime to do that, to shoot a gun in public. And that's not something that we should be proud of or supporters should be encouraging. We should be hearing actually people saying that what he did was wrong, even if they're going to say they're here to show their numbers or whatever the case may be. I'm concerned by the number of people who are in support despite the seriousness of the crime in a country that is experiencing large-scale violence, mainly by the gun, because it normalizes what he did, normalizes violence by gun in a country that is struggling with gun violence, in a country that is struggling with crime by gun, in a country that really cannot afford any kind of normalization or elevation of violence.
And Ms. Ngoasheng, when it comes to the case itself and what we saw today, where Malema's legal team is indeed fighting for a fine to be imposed on Julius Malema, what would it mean should we see him being sentenced and it is longer than 12 months? And then we also know that when it comes to the law, he will not be allowed to be a member of parliament. What does a Malema then do who can't be an active member of parliament should? should he see a much more longer sentence?
Well, it's really, I think, a rock and a hard place for the judge who has to make this final decision. Because, on the one hand, if he is indeed sentenced and the sentence is longer than 12 months, which means that he can no longer stand as a member of parliament, all it does is that it martyrs him. It makes him a martyr, it makes him a hero, and it makes him a mythical figure that the EFF will be riding the story of into perpetuity. We saw this happen with Jacob Zuma when Jacob Zuma was accused of various crimes, and he became this mythical figure and this martyr that people were constantly pulling when they're talking about the unfairness of the law or any other issue that was relating to it. And so sentencing him, even though it would be upholding the rule of law, would actually lead him to potentially be even more powerful than he is as a mythical figure that is absent. We already have a precedent in South Africa of a political party leader who is not a member of parliament, who is not in parliament as a member in the MK. We see Jacob Zuma, who, because he was sentenced, could not be a member of parliament, and he runs the MK and runs effectively via the back door the MK's political participation in parliament as a leader who isn't and cannot be in parliament. But what it also does is that it brings this question of why do we have this law that allows people who are criminally charged to be able to lead politics, even if they're not able to participate as members of parliament. It doesn't make sense that they cannot participate as members of parliament, but they can be leaders of political parties, meaning we are opening the door to people who then become leaders who cannot in any way be held accountable by any structure because are outside of the legislature, which has ethical committees, which has various checks and balances, and does have public transparency around utterances and engagement, which one doesn't then become, held up to when they are not in parliament but are leading. So while it would be important for the rule of law to sentence him as is needed, whether that's a fine or a prison sentence, it's critical for upholding rule of law and showing that rule of law does not care who you are and what position you hold. It does also run the risk of martyring him and also causing youth instability because his constituency is young people. Should he be arrested and sent to jail, they might protest, and we could see another July 2021, which we do not want to see in South Africa.
And Ms. Ngoasheng, before I let you go, I mean, just going back to the seriousness of this case and the veracity of this case, and what do you make of the school where some leaders in the EFF are also then saying that this is not a serious case and this is rather a politically motivated agenda?
Well, I mean, politicians, this is what they do. They do the wrong thing and then they blame political agendas in order to escape accountability. So in the hate crimes case, one could say this was a politically motivated case. One could have even bought that argument. But on this one, he really had no business being anywhere near a gun in a country that has the level of violence and in a stadium that had so many people who potentially could have been harmed by a stray bullet. So I think that there is a lesson that needs to be taught, because if he is able to get away with it, if the sentencing is light and it looks like it doesn't disrupt his life in any way, sends the message to South Africans that if you have a gun, you can shoot it and there'll be no consequences. It also sends the message that being in political power makes you untouchable and makes you no longer beholden to the same rules and laws that all South Africans are beholden again, which is unconstitutional because the Constitution says all of us as South Africans are equal before the law. And so this judge is going to have a difficult case of ensuring that he showcases that we are equal before the law. They showcase that there is rule of law in South Africa and it doesn't matter who you are, while also managing the potential disruptions or youth protests that may break out should he be sent to prison. I don't envy their position at all.
All right, Ms. Ngoasheng, thank you so much for your time.